Hey, what is up guys? So last time we started making the UI and we got something that looks like that. We're slowly trying to close the game. We're slowly trying to just push this on the phone and actually start doing some level design. But what I'd like to tackle in this episode is just do the, remember the destroyable door and also the switch. Let's go ahead and do that really quickly. So I'm going to boot 3ds Max. Okay, so here it is. Now I'm going to make sure that my scene is in meter and that my grid is 1 meter square. So let's go and customize unit setup, meter here as well. Okay, so for the gate, I was thinking about something fairly simple, so I'll just do a 2x3, like that, and I will go ahead and add the material on top of it, so it's the same exact material. I went to this, then diffuse, then I took the tile green. Right, after that what I'll do is I will go ahead and just connect these. I'll connect 2 segments and also take all of the center edges like that and connect 1 segment. So we pretty much split this object into little 1x1 cubes. Right, so now let's go ahead and do the UV real quick. I will add a unwrap UVW modifier, open in the UV editor. Then I'll choose this face, do a flatten mapping. Oh, doesn't seem to work. Okay, let's collapse that. So convert to editable polygon. I have no selection up here, so just make sure that nothing is selected, like that. And then we will put the unwrap UVW modifier again, and now this works. So I'll choose this texture, flatten mapping, and same thing like we pretty much always do. Now remember that I'm only using this texture just to do the UV, so whenever we want to make a door texture, we can actually do that. We don't have to use the same exact one as the floor. But when we will apply the texture, the UV are going to be correct. And yeah, so that's pretty much why I'm doing it with this texture. Because we know it's a seamless, styleable texture, so I will go ahead and just flatten all of these. Make sure you get the bottom as well. Or actually, you know what? Don't get the bottom, we're going to be removing it. We don't need it inside of the game. So we'll actually remove that whole face. But the sides we will need, most likely. And this is pretty much just a 2x3 cubes. Right, flatten mapping once more. There has to be a keybind, by the way. I haven't found the keybind just yet. Okay, now I will right click on this, convert to editable polygon, go below my object and remove these 2 faces. We don't need them. Okay, so that's my gate. I will call this Destroyable gate. And let's center it a bit, so I will do the, I'll go in the utility tab, reset X form, reset selected, then convert to editable polygon. After that, go in the hierarchy tab, effect pivot, and forget about that. Let's remove the effect pivot only. We're gonna take the whole object and move it to 0, 0, 0. Now we can take the pivot and rotate the pivot so the green arrow, so the y-axis, actually points upward, like so, and the blue one points to the forward of that gate. So in this case it would be either here or on the other side, so like that. So this is correct to me. I will go ahead and just convert this to editable polygon once more, and then we will go ahead and just save it in our project folder. So here is my project folder, artwork, models, and this is the destroyable door. Okay, now we're inside of our game. We're gonna add a little spice to that because the door itself is not really cool. We actually need, we could actually add some kind of particle system, so when we enter that gate at a certain speed, we actually do some kind of, blowing up effect. Nothing too fancy, but it actually just blows up and we have some particle playing. Alright, so I will go ahead and just, in the artwork, find my gate. Here it is. Drag and drop it inside of my level. We're gonna put the material on it, so the tile green material, here it is. And I will remove the animator. We will also add the script, so the destroyable object script. Now the force required was 10, that's fine, okay. And let's drag and drop this somewhere in our prefab folder, like so. Okay. So that's our destroyable door. Now if we just go ahead and put it somewhere in a level, so I go back inside of my scene folder, that's my main menu. That's my training game. And if I was to put it, say, destroyable door, here it is. Oh, by the way, a viewer gave me a really good tip when it came down to the snapping. If you hold V on the keyboard, you can snap using the vertex. So as you can see, when I'm holding V on the keyboard, I actually snap on the edges, not on the edges, on the vertex of an object. And then you can pretty much just play with that. So in case of these tiles over here, say we make it a level really quickly. We'll go ahead and just remove all of these. Now these tiles, they're not, they're not perfect. They end in the middle of that tile, and that's not good enough. So when we want to actually move these around and try to snap them, this is the kind of result we get, so it doesn't really make any sense. So the viewer told me that if you hold V, you can actually snap on the vertex. So if we hold V and take this vertex, snap it here, then it matches perfectly. And we can just go ahead and duplicate that, rotate, hold V, and we snap on the object itself, and it's just a really amazing thing to know. So I wanted to share that with you guys because I'm really grateful. Okay, now I'll just fix my level again, rotate this like that, snap on this vertex, put it here. Right. Okay, so that's our destroyable door. Let's snap it in the middle here. Oops, like so. Just to see if it works. Oh yeah, right, we need a collider. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a collider to this guy, a box collider. Hit apply. Now every single door should have the box collider itself. And that was not 10 of speed, I believe. And that was. Right, so now we need to add some kind of effect so it looks cool when we actually try to destroy that. And you know what, I'll just go ahead and place this somewhere else, so maybe around here. And this will lead you to somewhere else, like so. Alright, so the goal of the game is going to get here, I believe. Cool, cool, cool. Alright, let's try it out once more, just really quickly, so we know everything works for sure. So we broke this, and yeah, so we'd like to add some kind of effect to that. So I will go ahead and just create a particle system like we did for this guy here, the one that glows. We will add a particle system, but not something that runs all the time, because this, if you click on it, and if you look at it during the game, it always goes on, and it pretty much never ends, and it never really starts. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a door somewhere that we can look at, so maybe here. Doesn't really matter, just put it somewhere. And then we will add a particle system to that door. Now it's going to start emitting those little white balls, and we're going to change that right away. Instead of shooting those circles, let's actually try shooting cubes. So down here in the renderer option, we get the option to where it says default particle, we get the option to change that for, say, tile green. So then we start shooting the texture that was on the door itself. So let's actually use that, and then we can change the sort of things it shoots. Right now it's shooting pretty much just billboard plane. I think we can change that for mesh, and now we're actually shooting cubes. So that's what we're going to be using. Let's go ahead and just shoot some cubes like that when we enter collision with that. Of course, we have a lot of settings to change. So inside of the emission, we need to remove that. So the rate, put that on 0. And we want to have what they call a little burst here. So under burst, you're going to click the plus sign. And now every 1 second, it is going to actually spawn in between 30 and 30 particles. That's pretty much what it means. So let's do 6 just to see what happens. So every 1 second it is going to shoot these kind of stuff. Now what we want to do is remove the looping when we're done with that, but we're going to keep the looping while we're working on it because we need to actually see what's going on. And okay, right, so I think we can change the lifetime as well. So if we do the start lifetime, let's change that for maybe 1 so it doesn't go as far, maybe even 0.5. So something really quick, and the speed doesn't have to go that fast though, maybe 3. Okay, never mind, the speed has to be fast. Now one of the most important part is going to be the shape of this object, pretty much where we actually emit those particles. So right now we're pretty much just shooting them from the pivot point of that object. That's obviously not going to work in the end, so what I'd like to do is actually create another object inside of that destroyable door that is going to contain the pivot point of the particle system. And then when we enter a collision with the gate, we actually send him this position, and then the particle system can reposition himself. So that sounds a little bit complicated like that, but let's just go ahead and do it really quickly. So that particle system is actually not going to work anymore. Now I don't want to remove it. I'd like to have a way to copy, but I don't think it is possible. Well, there is this copy component. Let's try it out. Okay, so on the destroyable door, I am going to create a new empty game object. Now make sure it is a children of the destroyable door, like so. And this is going to be the particle pretty much. Let's just leave it like that. Now let's try to copy over this particle system. I'm going to right click on it, then copy component, and then do I get to paste it in here? Oops. I'm going to add the particle system component, then right click on it and paste component values. Okay, so we can do that. Right, I'm going to remove it on the main object now, and then we should have this guy right here. Okay, so on my destroyable door, I'm going to hit apply. Now, every destroyable door has a children that contains a particle system. It's a little bit off, as you can tell, so let's move it back to 0, 0, 0, which will then put it back at the pivot point of its parent. Also, the rotation is wrong, so let's make sure we fix that as well. And there we go. Alright, so let's go back on our particle system. Let's go check in shape. And just imagine yourself that this pivot point over here is the contact point. So that's where we're shooting those cubes from. So what we could do is scale it down a little bit. So maybe the radius, bring it back down like so. The angle could be a little bit more wide, so we could be shooting pretty much all of these directions. And we could also be shooting smaller cubes, so maybe 0.25, or never mind, 0.5, and shoot more of those. So inside of emission, I'll bump that up to say 20. Now we're shooting 20 cubes. And maybe a little bit faster. So there's a lot of settings that you have to play with to make this look good. So the start speed, let's make that say 7.5. And they might be going a little bit too fast, or is that okay? No, I'd actually like to add gravity to that. Is that possible? Yep, like so. So the gravity modifier is something you can play around with as well. That's a really cool one. Good. And then imagine that that door, say you were to actually put the particle collision on there. Imagine that that door was somewhere on the game place. Oh, actually we have one over here, and we Did we hit apply? Let's make sure we hit apply on this object. Going to remove it and go on this one, which is the same exact thing. Click on the particles so we can actually see them. Now imagine that that door was really close, and we actually put the collision. Okay, so down here they have their own little sub menu, so I'm going to check it and then put that on plane. Now it's a little bit messed up, and the reason is I don't know. I think it is because the pivot point is inside of that object. Yep, pretty much. So say the contact point is going to be around here. Then this is the kind of result we get if we put on the collision. Okay, so that can be satisfying to me. So I'm just going to leave that here. The particle, I'm going to put it in 1 in Y and 0.5 in. Okay, so 0.51 in Z. So make sure that this is actually outside of the gate. Then I'll hit apply, and by default, this is where the particles are going to come from. So pretty much in the middle of that door, not in the middle, but at the 1 in Y. Okay. So now let's actually try and find a way to make this only show when we enter collision with the door and when we actually break it. So on our object, let's quickly go back inside of the particle system, and we're going to turn off the looping like so, and then we can hit apply for the last time. Now on the destroyable door, we're going to open up the destroyable object script and declare ourselves a particle system. So up here, we're gonna make this one private particle system. So private particle system that we can call particle. Why not? And we're also going to create a start, so we can assign that. So private void start, and we're gonna say particle is equal to get component in children, because this is not on the main object. This is inside of a children. So get component children, we're getting the component called particle system, like so. And now we should pretty much have this working. And with that, I just realized that there is something really wrong. Let me show you what I just found out really quickly. So say we were to say particle emit, say 1. So we actually play a animation on that. And when inside of the game, we actually try to break the door, and never fast enough. So as you can tell, we didn't get any emission, and that is because we destroyed the object. Okay, so that was a really bad move on my part. We have to tackle this issue in a different way. So what we'll do instead, we will open up the destroyable object script once more, and instead of saying this, instead of getting the particle system, what we'll do is we will do public game object. So game object, and this is the burst prefab. So we're gonna put that inside of a burst prefab object. I mean a game object. So what we'll do inside of the call.impulse magnitude is bigger than force required. So when we actually destroy the object, we will do a instantiate, and we're gonna instantiate the burst prefab at the position call.contact. Okay, so contact returns a array of points that were pretty much just a contact point. So we're going to do call.contact, take the first one, so at the index 0, dot point. And then as for the rotation, let's do quaternion.identity for now, and we might have to change it a little bit later on. Okay, so instead of actually shooting something from that particle system, we instantiate an object instead. So this particle system, the one you see here, we're going to have to drag and drop it outside of the destroyable door, like so, and save this object on its own. So let's go ahead and call this burst, and I will go ahead and just drag and drop it inside of the prefab folder, like so, and we will go ahead on our destroyable object script, we will drag and drop the burst in there, then hit apply. Now if we were to play this, and we enter collision fast enough so we destroy the gate, Oh, I went a little bit too far. Okay. Then, as you can tell, now this works properly. Right. Press boost. And then when I hit pause, well, they pretty much go in any direction, which is fine, I believe. But where exactly is the particle system? It is where the contact point was. Okay, so that actually makes sense. So the only thing making this look not so great is pretty much just the settings we have in the particle system. So if we want to make this look better, we can go ahead and drag and drop our burst inside of the scene and pretty much just work on it. So we could be shooting a different shape. So maybe reduce the angle a bit, like so. And then when you're done changing your stuff, you just go ahead and hit apply, and it should change it on the actual prefab itself. Okay, so this is the kind of result we get. Now make sure that this is not on looping, so choose your object, actually choose your burst prefab, and just make sure that you toggle off the looping. And what we're going to do is we're going to tell the object to destroy itself after maybe 1 second. And how exactly are we going to do this? We cannot use this script anymore because this actually destroyed the game object we're on right now. So we might actually have to create another script only for that particle system. Else we can leave it in there without the looping, but pretty much what that's going to do is just leave a empty particle system in the scene. So I don't know if you guys want that. So as you can tell, now we did the effect only once, but the particle system is still there and it's going to remain there for the whole scene. So what we can do is actually on your burst object, let's create a script that is pretty much called Destroy Me, and it is going to take in parameter a float. So Destroy Me right here, let's do public float duration is equal to 1.25 seconds, just to be safe. Make sure that our particle system is pretty much done playing. And let's declare another float that is going to be the start time. Now in the private void start, we're going to say start time is equal to time.time, and in the update we are going to say if time.time minus start time is bigger than duration, then destroy this dot game object, like so. And that's pretty much all we need. So our script is now on the object. If we go try it out really quickly, like so, the particle system was there, and then after 1.25 seconds, it destroyed itself. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this episode, guys. We pretty much created the simple door using a particle system and also a really simple model. Now the texture can always change, everything can always change in terms of the colors. So thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed this video or if you learned something, please just go ahead and leave me a like, I really appreciate that. And if you have any question or comment, you can go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. There's also the Facebook page where you can contact me for help if you need some. Other than that, go ahead and subscribe if you enjoyed these tutorials, and I will see you guys in the next episode.